How to tell someone a person has died. Hi, this is Ilaria from ilazed.com and welcome to the episode number 31 of my podcast Italian Language in English. In today's episode, I am going to share with you something particular. In fact, I want to explain to you how to tell people that someone has died in Italian. I will start by explaining how journalists announce well-known people's death, and also I will explain to you how to share this bad news with friends and family. Keep listening to this audio if you want to be able to speak Italian in every situation. The Day of the Dead is nearing, and it is quite important for all of us Italians. On this day, we go to the cemetery, remember our dearly departed, and pay our respect to them. I have already talked about this in a previous episode, called Does Halloween Exist in Italy?, in which you will find Italian traditions, including food, associated with this day. Today, however, I want to talk to you about a topic that I might describe as unhappy. I am talking about how to tell someone that a person has died. I decided to write this article following specific questions from my students, and considering that it is unfortunately an ever-present topic, I decided to share some information with you. Depending on the situation, you can use different verbs, being more or less attentive to the feeling of those you tell this bad news to. But let's not waste any more time and start by listing the verbs to be used in this situation. Morire, decedere, used only in the compound form. Scomparire, mancare, spegnersi, lasciare, essere ed esserci in the negative form. Let us therefore proceed in order and see how to make people aware that there has been a bereavement. The first verb that everyone would immediately think of is undoubtedly morire. Using this verb might seem a bit too direct. But if the news of someone's passing is only given for informative purposes to people who don't know the deceased directly, as journalists may do, for example, using this verb is more than fine. As seen above, however, morire is not the only verb that can be used in this situation. We can choose to be more or less formal, and this depends on two main factors. Whether or not we know the deceased person directly, whether we are familiar with the person to whom we are giving the news. How to tell someone that a person has died? More formal and attached way. When there is no direct relationship with the deceased, or if the deceased is not a relative or a close friend, but only an acquaintance or someone about whom we have heard briefly, we can resort to the following verbs and phrases. Decedere. Ieri è deceduto lo stimato signor Rossi. The esteemed Mr. Rossi passed away yesterday. Scomparire. È scomparsa nella notte la nota signora Bianchi. The renowned Mrs. Bianchi passed away during the night. Spegnersi. Si è spento all'alba di oggi Giorgio Verdini. Giorgio Verdini passed away at dawn today. To these phrases, it is necessary to add another frequently used one. C'è stata la dipartita del caro Antonio. Dear Antonio has passed away. The term dipartita indicates a departure, a parting, and obviously can also be used in a figurative sense to indicate someone's departure from the world of the living. How to tell someone that a person has died? The more informal and affectionate way. When we give such terrible news to someone close to us who also knew the deceased, we should avoid the verb morire because it is too direct. It would also be better to avoid all the phrases seen above because, as we have seen, they are too formal and detached. What should we do then? Go ahead and use other verbs and phrases that will allow us to communicate with more tact and empathy. Andarsene. Mi dispiace dirti che Tizio se n'è andato questa mattina. I am sorry to tell you that Tizio passed away this morning. Lasciare. Caio ci ha lasciati nella notte. Caio left us in the night. Mancare. Tizio è mancato questa mattina. Tizio passed away this morning. Or also much used. Caio è venuto a mancare questa mattina. Caio passed away this morning. Essere and esserci, in the negative form. Purtroppo il caro Tizio non è più tra noi. Unfortunately, dear Tizio is not longer with us. Purtroppo Caio non c'è più. Unfortunately, Caio is no longer with us. Conclusion. As you have noticed, this episode is a bit different from the usual, precisely because it talks about a topic, that of death, which in our society is often considered taboo. I hope that you find this episode interesting and that you learn some new things that you were not aware of before. I wish you would never have to use all these phrases, but to make your learning of the language more complete and exhaustive, it seemed right to address this topic. After all, death is something we unfortunately have to deal with every day, and which we have to talk about even in Italian. Did you find this article useful? If you want other explanation and tips for learning Italian, take a look at my website, ilazed.com.